Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists.
It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
All right, welcome back to Canine Detection Collaborative, and this is kind of our post-event debriefing. So there's always all these emotions and all these lessons learned, even when we have so much success, and we wanted to kind of talk about all of those things. And today we have our co-host, Robin Grubel.
Hi, everybody.
And Stacy Barnett.
Hello.
And so on my Facebook, I've been like bragging on these two like crazy. They've done so many impressive things, bringing home certifications and big ribbons and little ribbons. And I wish you could see Stacy's face right now. Got the little squinty eyes of like, shut up. But I think that's part of it too, is after all of these celebrations is getting to celebrate with my friends and being able to share what they've done with everyone else. And so that's what this episode is kind of about, is what happens after all of the stress and pressure and all the training. And you have that certificate or you have that title, and then what's next? So do tell. I can't wait to hear everything.
Yeah. Well, it is kind of interesting. We're talking about the emotions that you feel after one of these big events. So to give you guys an idea, so I had Brava did her absolute last elite trial ever, right? And she got her elite champion and she got overall pronounced. It was like a big thing I was really, really focused on. So that's what I did. And Robin got her bomb dog certified.
Yeah, we did our bomb dog certification, which we have to do every year.
Yeah.
But because that's required by industry standards. And it's one of those things where it kind of got scheduled on me at the last minute.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, this is going to happen in about 2 weeks. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm picking up a puppy and I'm doing all of this other stuff. And so I'm dragging Dash halfway across the country, setting up bomb dog training to get ready. And we're training every day, trying to be really thoughtful about the types of hides you set out and which odors you're using. Because with the bomb dog stuff, you're using like 16. And, really trying to work all of that stuff, because one of the biggest challenges I found is that I train by myself a lot. So I always know where the hides are, and there's a little bit of a lack of trust, right? Because you don't set your own hides. So we did the certification. We can talk about later about, oh my God, the things you learn. You learn a lot when you fail a certification. You learn if you're good at it. You also learn a lot while you pass a certification. And then seriously, like today, I was like, wow, all I want to do is take a nap and cuddle with the puppy.
Right?
Totally really wants to bite my nose. But anyway.
And I messaged you. I'm like, snuggle away. Because you get this serious, after a big event or certification or whatever, right? You get that I don't know if it's because your adrenaline is so high and you just crash.
I think it's like the sucking out of all the cortisol and adrenaline and everything that you've been living on leading up to that event, that it's like,
you're just tapped. You're tapped, right? And I feel when you have that really big accomplishment, you feel great, right? You feel like, whoa, that was incredible. And then you go, okay, I need a nap, right? So it's just all of a sudden, you're completely depleted, even though it's all this positive energy, you're just depleted. It's done, tapped out. And then you have to drive 12 hours back to Florida. But
right. When you say positive energy too, I think I got to see a little bit of Robin's mental side. And so it was positive afterward. But when you say you were tired, I get it, because I saw the nerves come in. And when you said that because you train with your, just by yourself, seeing you train with others, you're a different trainer.
Right.
And so that's a lot to adjust.
And, it's one of those things where, because we were talking a little bit about this before I hit record on the episode. And, Stacy, how many trials have you done?
I think I counted, and this is just NACSW, which I've trialed an exorbitant amount because I am now my 6th nosework dog.
Right.
So I think I counted up, and that's not including like national invitationals. It's not including ORTs or whatever, like 145, which is crazy.
Right. And I certify a dog once a year. I have
Right.
a lot of dogs, and I have one dog that I have to certify in multiple different things.
Yeah.
That's like once a year.
Right.
And,
Right.
And like with the cadaver dogs, I've been doing that for 12 years. So now it's like, yeah, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But with the bomb dogs and narcotics stuff, it's still brand new. And then you also have the added, well, and I'll be honest, the narcotics dog stuff, if I miss the narcotics, okay, that sucks, but we'll get them next time. Bomb dog stuff, somebody might die.
Right. Right.
And so there's a little bit added pressure on that. Plus, of course, you don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what's interesting though? That kind of like triggered some thought here because I realized now here I am. I've trialed everything all the way up through Summit, and I've done like 6 Summit trials at this point. And I have to say that I am most nervous in an ORT with a brand new dog, which is hilarious, right? Because it is literally pass fail.
Right.
Yeah. But the point is that I don't have all of that history of trialing the dog. Right?
Well, it's that trust level that goes
it's
on.
like I have this green dog that I've never really test driven in a competitive environment. I am definitely most nervous in an ORT. Which is crazy.
Oh, and thinking of an ORT, I should have snapped a picture for you.
Yeah.
Of the ORT drill that they had set up for us. I walked in, it was in the middle of an abandoned boarding school commons area.
Okay.
So think of a school, and there's all these little rows of white boxes.
I would have felt very much at home.
Yeah. And so we're walking over and we're looking at them. I'm like, these are like the little white boxes that fold up on themselves and all sorts of, I'm like,
which one's birch? That's what I'd be like.
Well, and then interspersed because it's law enforcement, right? So you have the little handgun evidence box thrown in.
Okay.
And here's me. What do? I start counting. How many handgun evidence boxes are there? Oh, there's 5. That's probably not odor. So don't try and psych out the judges, right? Because that's not a good plan either.
No. Never.
But we had one of the odors that wouldn't present out of the box.
See, that is different than what we deal with, obviously.
Right.
We've got these huge,
massive odors, but they placed the odor in the first box, which is fine.
Yeah. Okay.
And wow.
That's a trust exercise, though. That is a real trust exercise.
It is. We could search all the boxes until time was up.
Okay.
Because we could go back. You guys can go back, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is timed, but it is not normally a don't go back. Like we're not required to do it in one pass.
Okay.
We have a certain amount of time and we have to clear them within a certain amount of time. There are certain circumstances where you may have a specific setup, let's say an elite or summit, right? Where you might have what we call the no-go back.
Right.
Where you have to clear something and then basically you're saying that part's clear and then move on to another section.
Oh, I make my area search people do that. If we're out in 160 acres and we're wandering around, I'll make them look at their map and
that
say,
makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Where have you searched? What are you calling clear?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because you don't want to have to keep tromping over 160 acres.
No, because And so it's interesting to see the nervous level ratchet up in people when you start asking them that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fascinating. But as we were talking, one of the things that occurred to me is I started thinking about my strategy with those boxes, right?
Yeah.
So they had them in 3 rows. And I started at, box 1, which after I got done, I knew was the hot box.
Right.
And so I did row 1. And then I turned and immediately presented row 2. And we did row 2. And then I presented row 3, right after we got done with row 1 and went all the way back on to row 3. And then what did I do? is I walked all the way around
Okay.
and started back at the first box.
Okay.
Like I had just started the exercise. And when we got done and we were going through certificates and everything, I'm looking at that and I'm like, why didn't I start at the end of row
And just
one and
reverse
work
it.
the other direction?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But
Yep.
you get so in, oh my God, this is the pattern we have to do.
I did an NW3 for the first time with Prize this weekend. The day after I did Bravo's Last Elite, right? We had a container search, but it was a circle. That makes it a lot
Oh.
easier. Right. So it was kind of this big circle, and she's pretty fast. And that's kind of her challenge with containers, right? She gets some motor on her. And when she's motoring, we're not getting as much information at each of the boxes. So that's actually the hardest part with her. So we went around and I'm like, whoa, I'm not catching any odor here. And I'm starting to panic because I had already called an interior blank, and you can only have one blank search in a trial.
Oh, you're like, this one better not be blank.
So we're going through and I'm like, there has to be odor here, right?
Or I'm in huge trouble.
Exactly. So I spun her around and we went the other direction. So this is kind of what you're talking about, is like kind
Right.
of reversing direction, right? And then lo and behold, she's like, "Oh, hey, Mom, there's a hide here." And I'm like, "All right, that's cool, right?" I'm like, "You know what? We kind of whizzed past a few of these. Let's try this again." And we found the second hide. So, yeah.
Well, and because I ended up doing that row like 3 times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it took,
And with the airflow, you can sometimes actually, if you do reverse it, you can get more information. Anyway.
I think like the third time I did the row, I think I did it the other direction because I was having a panic attack.
Right.
And I actually got to the point where I had to present the edges of the seams of the box. And so we were doing the seams around these, 12 by 18 inch boxes. And bless Dash's little heart, he at least didn't touch them. But yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, give him, and they were really good because I had also put bricks in them so they didn't slide really easy.
So they were 12 by 18 inches?
They were small.
That's small. That's big.
Oh, that's big. Well, maybe I don't know.
They just seemed really, really big to you, right? Or
they seemed really big to me. Well, I have also done ORTs with everything from tin cans to paper boxes.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
So, or luggage, because we can have, when they say a lineup type of drill, you really don't know if it's when you walk in, is it going to be tin cans? Is it going to be these little boxes? Is it going to be trash cans?
Right.
Set up in
trash
a row.
cans.
Right.
Wow.
Well, because that's a high target area for
it makes sense, right? Yeah, that makes total sense. So now, when they have these boxes, do you know how they set the odor within the box? Because if they're having to check the seams,
no, I don't.
Put in there, and with the you don't know.
Well, because we're talking about like a stick of dynamite.
Okay.
Right.
Got it.
So it's just in there. You're not going to put it in a specific corner.
Okay. They're not taping the little Q-tips in the certain part of the box.
No.
Right.
And we wouldn't use adhesives anyway.
True.
Right. Because there's something in the adhesives that the dogs kind of
got it
alert to for explosives.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, so today was one of those days where I was driving around going, I just want to cuddle with my puppy.
Yeah.
I took the dogs for a walk.
Yeah. After trialing, I just want to sleep. It's like, I just kind of like, you have all this great, and especially if it's a really big trial, like you have all this really positive energy and you just feel great. And then you just want to sleep.
Well, it was really interesting because you guys got to see me on the other side of this getting ready for certifications, which was like heel rub it off the ceiling. So, and Crystal, you had sent me this one really little, the saying, which so completely shifted my entire energy. And I could feel myself every time I would be because there were like 5 of us testing, right? And
Yeah.
so we'd go do one component and then we'd go back and we'd sit and we'd wait.
Oof. Yeah. Yep.
Right. And so every time I could feel myself getting spun up, I would remember this little saying, which I'm going to make Crystal pull it up because I think she's pulling it up.
I was
Right.
trying to find it. Basically, it was don't let the room influence you, you influence the room.
Right. And it's the influence, the energy in the
energy.
room.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about Dash is a very sensitive dog. He is very, very in tune to what I'm, my whole weirdness. And I was like, you know what? The only energy in the room that I have to worry about influencing is his.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going to go out and we're going to do this. And you know what? He showed up with all paws on board and looked at me and said, okay, Mom, I got this. And I was just like, dude, wow.
That's so cool. And it's and actually I think we need to take that saying, Crystal, like, and maybe we can put that in one of our Facebook pages, like Facebook posts or whatever.
Yeah.
Really
I found it. It's don't adapt to the energy in the room, influence the energy in the room.
Yes.
I love it.
And I've had a bunch of kids this last week at school that have had a bunch of interviews for all these different things. And so I've shared it with them and every single kid has come back and said, that was really helpful.
Well, it was because the only energy you can really affect is your own.
Yeah.
And your dogs read that.
They do.
110%. And, I got home today and it was really funny because you guys know me. I have 9 dogs, right? Because I'm crazy.
That's not crazy.
And I will tell you, every single one of my dogs was just kind of chill today.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure they could read the energy that, Mom's like, chill.
Or they're exhausted too because they've been dealing with you. Right?
Probably. They're like, oh my God, she took a chill pill.
Finally, we can sleep.
I wonder about nerves with my side with sports, protection sports, and then being a helper. I love competition, just love it. I get so excited getting to get out there. And most of my teammates are super, super anxiety ridden. And so much so that at one of the trials, I got everybody a little brown paper bag and put their name on it and their dog's name on it. I was like, I wish you the best of luck. And if all else fails, here you go. You can either use a spray, if you hyperventilate or if you're going to puke, either one. It's a multifunction bag.
That's really funny.
So I wonder too, if you have a background as being an athlete, if that helps with competition. Or like what it is that makes some people excited about competition, because I'm with you, Robin. I don't get many opportunities in my sports. We host 2 trials a year. At most 3 is about all I really get to go to. But I get so stoked, so excited. Like I'm out there smiling with my dog and people will comment on that. They're like, how are you out there smiling? I'm like, because this is fun. This is great. I'm showing off my dog. So I don't know.
I think that's it. I think you are showing off your dog. And I think that is the fun part because you're taking a dog that is going back to the word proficient, at least proficient, if not fluent. And you're showing off the dog's capabilities. And it kind of goes back to probably, if you're taking out like a green dog or whatever, like I'm looking back at like my ORTs, I was telling you that I'm most nervous with that, right? There you have a dog that's you don't have that rapport yet. But I think if you really, really prepare for something, you can really enjoy it,
I think on the flip side, like I learned about the PSA PDC a couple weeks before it and didn't even I was reading the rules the couple days before it to make sure I even knew what to expect. I watched a couple trials on YouTube, the day before. I had done the scenarios twice, and so honestly, that was a blast and we were not proficient. Yeah. Like we got, we passed, right? But it's a pass fail and that's cool. We passed. Yeah. But even there, that was almost more fun. It was just exhilarating of just let's go do the thing, guys.
Yeah.
I almost wonder too, if you put so much time and energy into it, like with Robin, when that's a one-shot deal and you're not going to have another chance to do it and you're putting so much pressure on yourself because of that, I wonder if that changes it too.
It does, because I'm getting into the hunt test stuff, and I'll be honest, I really want to do the hunt test because I'm like, you know what? If we show up and my dog decides, well, and it's not even that the dog decides it doesn't do it. If it takes a cast wrong and I miss getting a ribbon, I'm okay.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think you do have a point there.
It's okay. But with the certifications, because, one of the things that, like, the group that I work with, it took us 5 months to get the certification set up.
Wow.
Because since we're doing what we're doing, we have to rely on, when we can fit into somebody else's schedule.
Right.
Right. And it's a little bit of, not only do you feel like you're inconveniencing them a little bit because you have to fit into their schedule, but then, oh my God, you really don't want to suck when you show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I'll be honest, I've tried this certification before and we were not proficient, but we were really young in our career.
Yeah.
This was several years ago. We didn't know what we didn't know.
Right.
And so there is an art. And, even this time around, I learned the certifying officials were fabulous. They did some like on-site coaching, not to pass the certification, but it was actually how to best take the certification. So like, you need a marker system because you're going to do all of your searches and then you're going to come back and you're going to tell us where you found something. And when you're working in 4 rooms that look exactly the same, I'm not going to remember where everything is at. So I had my 3 magic rocks that I picked up. One of the other, that I picked up. And when the dog would alert, poor Dash, we're doing the boxes, right? Because all the boxes look the same.
Right.
I drop a rock right next to the box and Dash is like, ooh, snack. Like, buddy, it's a rock.
That's great.
He's very disappointed.
But you know what? The Labrador, they could still think, that's still a snack.
Well, and I'm like, that's all I need is Dash inhaling a rock during certifications. But anyway.
I'm curious too, Stacy. I know in the sports side for me, I'm very picky about some of the trials I go to because of the officials and the decoys and helpers that are working. Because of safety issues, and then also of just their style. And so do you also have those considerations?
Well, I have to say we are, NACSW is where I trial most, right? And they're very fortunate in that the certifying officials are generally very, very skilled, and so are the judges. But what I would say, and we don't have the safety issues necessarily, but I think in some cases there are certain sites that might be more suited for my dogs. So for instance, and I was kind of going back to what Robin was saying in terms of like the pressure, because you're only doing it every so often. Like if I look at summits, I'm only allowed to do them twice a year. So, and when I'm actually competing in a summit, I feel a tremendous amount of pressure. So it's not necessarily feeling nervous, but I feel there's a lot of pressure because it's like, well, if I mess this one up, I only get one more chance this year. But for the summits specifically, I am going to be trying to look at, the trial site. But then again, there aren't that many of them. So it's kind of like, the ones that I can get into, But, I know that there's going to be certain trial sites that are going to be more suited for my dogs. Things like manure, I found that out, right? Maybe not so well suited for Bravo.
Hey, you're good now.
Yeah. We've made a lot of progress there, but
conquered that one.
Yeah. We kind of took care of that one. I think we rode that joke right into the ground. Maybe not totally yet, but I think we're getting there. I think
we're getting close.
We're making progress on that joke. But there are certain certifying officials I really like. And I really like their hides. I think, there's some that just really understand odor, and you're also going to find that some, because as humans, right, we have hide setting patterns. We all do.
We do.
Right? So we do. Even if we think we don't, we do.
Right.
And what I've found that there are certain certifying officials whose patterns are actually pretty well suited for one of my dogs. And that's kind of just interesting. You just kind of start to get a feel for that kind of over time.
Fascinating.
And as a certifying official who sets up events and then being, on the receiving end as being a candidate to certify or go attempt one, the appreciation you have for a certifying official or a judge who really understands odor movement.
Yep.
And knows, okay, you know what? I can put one hide back in this particular area. It's 75 degrees back here. It was roasting.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where I'm going to put odor, because not that I'm making it easy for the dog, but the dog actually has to search in a certain way, but they have very specific opportunities for availability. It's not just one.
Right.
Have a couple of different ways to do it. And those you really appreciate, and you appreciate the fact that they don't set up something really out there.
Yeah. And what I also really appreciate is when I see the certifying official that I can see they've really thought out what that hide's going to do. And it's not just a hide under a chair. Right. Because we get a ton of those, right? It's a matter of what is that odor going to do? So there was one hide this last trial at Brava's final elite. And it was actually the one fringe alert that we had. We did have a bad call. That's my bad call. Well, although Brava did alert, right? So we'll take some joint responsibility there. We had one fringe in the entire day. And I knew exactly what happened after it happened. Because what had happened, and this goes back to hide placement, right? There was a hide on a table and there was a sunny window, and directly underneath that sunny window was a stack of chairs, right? So that odor was being pulled from the table towards the sunny window, and it was getting caught in the stack of chairs, right? So
and here's me. I'm thinking about the scent and odor theory illustrations that you and I have been collaborating on.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a good one.
That would be a good one. We might have to add that one in. But anyway.
and it was really because Brava makes snap decisions. This is just the way she is. She all of a sudden she's like, well, it's here, right? And she gives me a final response. Well, she got kind of caught up in that chair and gave me a quick snap decision. Now, thinking, of course, I'm thinking I would like to think, collection of chairs, sunny window, let's think about this call a little bit. But I didn't. I just said alert and I got a no. And I'm like, oh, it's a no, right? And that just kind of throws you for a loop for a minute. And what was really cool is that Brava starts going up, right? She's going up the wall now. And I'm like, I know what's going on here. She turns around and she hits the hide on the table. And to me, that was a really cool hide, right? That was a really, really awesome hide because it exposed, where the dog or where the team needs to work.
Has a gap.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, I was sitting there going, oh, crap, we got to know. But it was a really cool hide. So when I see hides like that in a trial, well, hopefully I call them correctly, but I love seeing that stuff, And for me, kind of like the whole debrief part of it, like when you leave a trial or in your situation where you're leaving a certification, I don't know about you, but I'm going over everything in my head after. So it's like you're reliving every single moment.
And it's interesting because I was driving home and I realized that because in our certification, what they have you do is they're like, here are your 5 cars.
Yeah.
Go out, search all 5 cars. You have X number of minutes. Call it when you're done. Come back and tell us what you found.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah, so you don't get the immediate feedback. We get immediate feedback.
Yeah. There's no immediate feedback. And, and so I'm at, I'm at the point where, with the dog, and, this is one of the things that you have to start making these decisions of, am I going to take the chance of reinforcing my dog for doing their train final response when I don't actually know what odor they're alerting on?
Right.
My answer is no.
Right.
And so then you actually have to teach the dog and prepare the dog for the fact that I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, good boy, buddy, let's go find another. Now,
Uh-huh.
is that actually considered reinforcement? Sure. Good boy, let's go find another. That might be reinforcement, but you know what? I can fix that false alert a lot more than if I pull out that Kong and bonk it off the car.
Oh, yeah. Because if
Right?
I had fed Brava at that stack of chairs, she'd be alerting on
You just reinforced her for an odor pool.
trapped odor. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I would have then trained it in.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
been kind of interesting to think about how, one of the things that we do a lot in the cadaver world is, thank you, let's go find another. And, the certifying officials were actually made the recommendation as we were walking through. They did kind of like pre-walkthroughs for you guys, right? They said, this is your certifying area, so we don't have to explain this to you when you get here. I want you to really think about reinforcing your dog during your certification exam, because if you don't have an out on your dog, you're not going to be able to get your toy back. And we're not stopping the clock.
Wow.
And so, it comes down to some of those little tiny nuances that you learn that are the most efficient way. And then I got told I was being a turtle. So we had to move faster.
You were being a turtle.
We were being a turtle.
On your certification, do you generally have more than one hide in an area, or?
Yeah, all of them have. Well, we had the way that certifications and the ASB standards are set up for most of your detection disciplines. You are allowed to miss one hide. So you have to have at least a 90%.
Okay.
Right? It's a 90% and no false alerts that you've called.
Okay.
Right.
So I would have failed certification. I missed a hide and I had a false alert.
Did you, if you called the false alert, yes, then you
I
would have
did.
failed.
I did. It was we had 18 hides. We found 17 and I had a false alert.
Okay. So keep in mind, we had 10 total.
Okay.
Right. So,
But still.
Well, but are you at 90%?
Was I?
I don't know. That's math.
Yeah, I had a 91. Because the thing is, we lose points for a false alert. So I still had a 91%.
Okay. Don't ask me to do math.
Yeah. No, I only know that because it was written on my sheet. I did not do that in my head.
Right.
That was written on my sheet.
So you can miss one hide in our certifications, but they have it spelled out like that you have 3 hides in this area in vehicles and 3 hides in the box, the ORTs. You had 4 rooms, 3 rooms are hot.
Okay.
So you have to call a blank. And then we have an exterior and outside search with a hot.
Okay.
And, a lot of the explosive certifications look a lot the same. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't feel like a whole lot of time, but it's adequate time if your dog is an efficient and effective searcher.
Yeah.
And you can move through stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you're not nervous. The cars took me forever.
Like with NW3, that sounds, obviously you're doing like life or death stuff, and it's probably and the odor is a lot less available than what we deal with. I'm just kind of thinking about the NW3 level where we have 6 searches. There's usually 9 or 10 hides ish in the trial. We may have a blank area. It's kind of interesting, just drawing parallels there. Yeah, we did have a blank interior. I was so proud of Prize though, because that was a whole part of my letdown, because the emotional decompression.
That was her first thing.
Yeah, it was our first NW3.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about the pronounced with?
Oh,
Prize?
Yeah. I don't understand what that means.
So Prize did not get overall pronounced. Brava did.
Oh, Brava did. Okay.
Overall pronounced. So with every search that you do, the judge has an option of marking the search as pronounced. And that could be, there's really no specific criteria for that. It has to do with maybe some teamwork, maybe something special that they saw. But it's basically a way of rewarding the team with an intrinsic kind of value, just saying, like, hey, this was special.
That was really cool, right?
It was really cool, right? And of course, when you're trialing, you have more than one judge because you have typically two. So they split the searches. So you're going to have one judge on some of the searches, one judge on another. And if you get a pronounced designation on every single search, you earn overall pronounced. And then you get this little tiny ribbon that says pronounced on it, which actually means way more than any of the title ribbons you will ever get.
That would be really hard.
It is hard. It is really hard. So Brava got it at elite, which is like just about like unheard of. You can get it, but it's rare.
Right.
She's gotten it once before, but even then it's really rare. Like it's incredible. But with elite, you have 4 searches. Now with NW3, you have 6 searches. So you would have to be pronounced in all 6 searches to get overall pronounced. She was pronounced in 5 out of the 6.
That's still cool. Wow.
She did amazing. She did amazing. We were not pronounced in containers because basically, she's just going a little too fast. We still have some container work to do, but it was an intense weekend.
And isn't it funny how you're like, oh my gosh, I passed the certification. I'm super duper excited.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, but I have so much to work on.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, I'm taking like 3 days to go through this whole decompression process. And then I'm like, okay, but I have notes on this is now what we need to go work on. Right.
Because it's educational, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what I love about a really good, like a tougher trial is that it starts to say, hey, this is what you need to work on. And then I use that to kind of inform my training. So I think if you do it correctly from a competitive side, trialing can improve your training if you use it as an information source.
I'm so inspired by every trial. I totally get that. Yeah. Every time I leave, it doesn't matter if I competed or if I just observed. I'm so inspired by the teams, the collaboration between everybody, the officials, the problems say that. Okay, like the programs that Mondio Ring judges set up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every time I'm like, I cannot wait to get home to go try all those things. And some of these judges are just so phenomenal.
I saw one, I think it was a Mondio. I'm sure it was Mondio. Actually, it was a video and it went like viral and I loved it. They had the I guess, is it decoys in Mondio or is it, they call
Correct.
them decoys?
Decoys,
Decoys. So the decoys there and they had this suit on and then the woman was competing. I think she was, I think this was in Europe and she had the dog, with her. And I think it was kind of like a defensive handler type of thing. They're dancing and they're doing the hokey pokey or whatever. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, they put the hand on her and the dog went, and bit.
Yeah, we actually had our local trial, they did dancing.
But you could see like the handler was like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And it was the coolest thing to watch. And like, I could see how, like, if you watch that sort of trial or if you're experiencing that, how you can go away going, there's so many more elements to my training that I need to work on because this just kind of gave me a different perspective and everything. And I mean, that's the type of thing I try to get out of all my trials, but I could totally get that every trial, especially with Mondio, because it's all different.
I love the joy that the judges have all brought to all the trials that I've been to. Like they are truly out there and supporting the handlers and the teams and the decoys. I think back to our one of our last trials with Jake Schneider, and he was just smiling and he had a pure love and joy for the sport. And that's what I think is so powerful about choosing the right officials, and I think back to Don Lee, my very, very first trial, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I had just switched Quinn over from IGP as a retirement sport to Mondio because, that's a retirement sport. No.
Right. Sure.
And I didn't even realize how blind Quinn was getting at the time. So that was also the poor dog.
Oh.
But the first trial I did, it was on Saturday, Sunday. It was each day is a different trial. And the first day, my IGP habits came out. And during defensive handler, you just mentioned that you can't say anything. No words can come out of your mouth. And an IGP, every time that you go from a stop to moving, you would give the heel command, which for me was foos.
Okay.
Without even thinking, I said foos during the defensive handler. Didn't realize that I had done it. Got to the end of the whole thing. And I was like, my dog did great. He's like, your dog did do great. but you lost 30 points.
Oh,
because
30?
you said, you lose the whole exercise. That's done.
Oh,
The whole thing is done. So fortunately, I had a second day, another try, another chance. And I'm like, well, why not? Like, let's do it. We did everything else well. And the judge was so great. It was Don Lee, and he took a piece of duct tape and he put it on his shirt. And he would point to that to remind me to shut up.
I thought you were going to say you put it on your mouth. Like,
yeah.
Well, that wasn't allowed. So that was the best, alternative.
That was the best you could do.
He would
That's
point at it
great.
like, I'm here to support you and you guys did a great job. And if you'll just shut up. So, Robin, you were saying that your officials were there and they kind of gave you an education at the same time. And that's so great.
It is. That's one of those things that I'm sure, Stacy, you can say there is an actual whole learning curve
Yes.
on how to trial, how to test. Here is the, don't just drop your rock outside the room. You should probably drop your rock wherever the dog sat to say, hey, this is odor, because I dropped my rock outside the room and couldn't locate it. And Dash comes tootling back in and sniffs it and sits. And I'm like, yeah, right there. And they're like, well, technically, but we saw the dog alert out of sight previously. I'm like, okay. They're like, no, place the rock right where the dog alerts. So you don't have to remember when you go back to walk us through and do the debrief.
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's those little nuanced things, and trust me, next time in the FEMA system, a lot of us have washers, big washers that you have a little bit of flagging tape on.
Okay.
And we use those as our placeholders for when our dog alerts, which then of course makes the evaluating officials trot across the pile to go pick up all the washers between every person, right? I've been on that duty many times. And, I've decided, I'm like, I'm just going to have to go get some of those. I'll dig out my washers. I didn't have my FEMA vest with me. Otherwise I would have had my washers along. So yeah, it's very interesting on how you learn. You guys just say alert and you can move on to the next thing, but do you not?
We get a quick yes or no,
right?
We're aware if we're close and the judge is feeling.
But do you not sometimes lose tracks on which ones you found?
Yeah. And that's actually, that's a really, really great question, right? So we did this one search. It was during the Elite, just this past, and it was this big cabin and there were tables and chairs. It was like a dining area. And we were told unknown number of hides. Well, turns out there were 6, and you're doing this in a short amount of time. And at that point, every chair looks the same. So it does. So you really have to kind of orient the chair in your mind with respect to where it is in the room, and then try to remember that. No, I came out of there a couple of times. Bravo would re-indicate, and I'm like, you found that one already, and I moved on. And I was lucky in that I was correct, because I went back and we can video with a GoPro. So I'm watching the GoPro. I'm like, okay, good. We didn't double call anything. But it can be hard to really remember that. And I find that the ability to remember hides comes with fluency of trialing, right?
Okay.
So we're talking about fluency with the dog, but this is kind of handler fluency from a trialing perspective. So the more I do this, the more I can leave and remember all the hides that I found, even after I get back to my van. I remember in the beginning when I was doing NW3 with Judd, and it was we titled on the second one. I didn't think I titled because I remembered I made a certain number of calls, but in my head, I had recalled something. It turns out I did not. I actually find everything. And it's just I would leave the searches with Judd and go, what did I just find? I don't remember.
Can you guys put down anything?
No.
Oh, I didn't know if you were allowed to do that or not.
We can't do that. We can't do it because basically we're calling and we call alert. We get a confirmation. Now, if we recall something, there's no penalty. But if, for instance, you have in our last search, it was 2 to 5 hides, right? So let's say you recall something, you think you found 5 hides and you really only found 4.
Right.
But, they may not tell you that was the same one.
Oh my gosh.
So, and so, some judges will, but a lot of them won't. So that's where it gets really kind of complicated. And
Well, and that's handler focused. That's handler
It is.
memory focused versus dog memory focused.
Exactly. And I think that comes with experience and being able to calm your nerves, because to be able to remember something like that, you have to be able to get your head out of your proverbial, rear end, right? Right. So, because you have to be able to stay in the moment enough that you can dedicate your headspace to focusing on what the dog is doing, what the dog is telling you, versus surviving, which I think is kind of the feeling that we sometimes get when we're in those high pressure situations.
Have you found that having a search strategy and a pattern to how you search a room or a venue has helped with that? Because that you're like, for me, and I found something out really interesting, that I naturally want to go to the left. Dash would really prefer to go to the right. Because when he does his free sniffs, he goes in and he'll usually go to the right and do a loop around the room. But have you found that since you have developed that type of search pattern, that it helps you remember where your hides are so you can call them?
To some extent, because I don't hard pattern. I do what I call soft patterning, which is just moving in a logical flow.
Okay.
And I may revisit parts of it because, again, keep in mind, our scent cones are huge, right?
Right.
So if I'm in one part of a room and all of a sudden my dog goes odor, right? And they start to go in another direction, I'm not going to pull them off of that. So I have to kind of go with that, and then I have to adapt. So you're kind of like, you have in your head, like, oh, I'm going to go clockwise or whatever. But then the dog goes, oh, but there's odor right there. You go, okay, yeah. Right. You go, alert. Yes. Okay. Well, now we have to go, oh, now let's adapt and try to figure out how we're going to modify the pattern to cover the rest of it. That's where it gets a little complicated.
It's been interesting because I was having a conversation with one of my students about how I handle my leash.
Yeah.
Because, I'm working with a 6-foot leash. And I was like, but if I do this correctly, I've actually not only got the 6-foot leash, but then I've got, I'm 5'11", so I've got long arms, right? So I've got 3 feet of arm too. So my dog has 9 feet. and if I get really technical, I can then, welcome back, Crystal, to you said sports, and I started thinking about sports. Well, I played basketball in high school, and it was a team sport. So I'll age myself. We played 6-on-6. That was a long time ago. And
I didn't play sports. I'm well within that age group, and I'm sitting there going, I don't remember any of that.
So I have a pivot.
I think it was an Iowa thing too, by the way.
It was probably an Iowa thing. But I have a pivot foot, and wherever I have planted that pivot foot, because that's, I spent a lot of time in high school learning that stuff. Okay. That's where my dog has either stopped putting their nose on the car or in the room or whatever, but I'll give them this 9 feet to go wherever they need to go. But if you give me enough pull, I'll leave and I'll follow you.
Yeah.
But it takes it's dancing.
It is.
It's seriously dancing with a dog, and who's like, don't make me trip over the leash, stupid lady.
Yeah. And I handle with a 15-foot leash.
Yeah. Bless your heart. Yeah. So
but you've seen my dogs.
Yeah. Okay. Mach 5.
Yeah.
Dash is not my Mach 5. That's neat.
No. But, and they chase odor a little bit, but having that 15-foot line just really kind of helps. But what I've found though is there is going back to kind of that idea of kind of knowing where you are and what you've covered, right? There's a whole awareness of your surroundings, right? Mm-hmm. And what's interesting? I heard about, I don't know if you went in a period of high arousal, that your peripheral vision actually cuts out.
Narrows. Absolutely.
Yeah. You get tunnel vision, right?
Yes.
So it's like, for instance, if you're driving and it's nighttime, or you're driving down a road, right, and a deer jumps in front of you, you actually, your vision narrows. And I think this is what happens when we're nervous in a search, And we're trying to keep our bearings in the search. And if we're nervous, our vision narrows and we get tunnel vision. And it can be really hard to see, have we covered the whole area? Or it can be hard to see where in the world was this hide in relation to the room or in relation to the search area, right?
I think totally thinking about this because we were in a tow lot to do the search yesterday, and they gave us 5 cars.
Yeah.
In a lineup of about 30. I could not tell you what any of the other cars on the other side of my 5 looked like. I have no idea what they were. None whatsoever.
Right.
And they're
because you get tunnel vision because it's just the arousal,
right. And that's a survival mechanism. No, I
it
need
is.
to jump this particular ravine to escape the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I start thinking about our law enforcement, and that it's just making me understand even more, like if they're working their dog and they get that tunnel vision, they can't have that tunnel vision.
Right. The added skill set that they have to have in order to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah. For the safety. Yeah.
Because their safety, their dog safety, and, hopefully most of them actually have flankers that go with them.
Right. Yeah. But still.
Right. When we do search and rescue work, that's always one of those things that when, we send people out in the field, it's the handler and their dog. And then the flanker that goes with them, their sole responsibility is keep the handler from doing something stupid. Because the handler is usually just watching their dog and, will fall in a ravine or fall in a cistern or something like that because they're watching their dog.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But, then I think about, like Crystal said, the law enforcement who's out there doing their thing.
With like guns.
Yeah.
Right?
And people who want to kill you. And
Because even for your mental game to try to help you out, I was talking about focusing on Dash's breathing and kind of coming into that moment. And that's good for competition. It's good for certification.
It's right. But, that was extremely helpful because it was one of those things where if I concentrated on his breathing, it was a very, very good indicator of when he's on odor. And it also reminded me, seriously, I'm driving to certification and all of a sudden I found myself going, breathe.
Yeah.
And I would have to, I'm like, breathe. Because
you realize you're holding your breath and you're holding it very high in your chest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love all those mental games. My best friend Nancy's taught me about a lot of that stuff with her doula work and with pain management. And it's all so helpful to try to keep you in the moment. And so all of those things are definitely good practice.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that it's because I know, Crystal, we were talking about visualization, right? And I do a lot of visualization of, okay, this is the starting ritual is actually part of the whole visualization of we're going to go up here and we're going to start and he's going to be sitting on this side and he's ambidextrous. So he'll start from either side. And, but it's just walking through that whole process and it's going to be smooth and we're going to do this and it'll be fine and practice just doing it all of the time the same way.
And the routine is huge. And the other thing that I do is I try to, we have virtual walkthroughs. So instead of being able to physically see the search area, we see a video of it. And if I have internet connection, I will, especially if it's a very high pressure trial, I will rewatch that over and over. And it's not to get more information from the video. It's actually just to place myself in it and just to visualize. So I can just insert myself into the search area before I search. And that actually works really well.
So with your certifications, I'm kind of curious. There's so many similarities. So Robin, you said you had 5 cars and you had the containers. How many containers did you have?
They give you a range. I don't remember how many containers we had.
It was back to tunnel vision. I got you.
Yes.
I thought I had 30 in the NW3. We had 20. So
right. It was in the teens somewhere, and it might have been 20.
Okay.
So, it was a decent number.
And then what other searches did you have? What other areas?
We had to do rooms,
Okay.
and then we had an outdoor area that we had to do.
And so how many rooms and how many hides?
4 rooms, 3 hides, 1 blank. And then the outdoor area was like 2,000 square feet or something. It's not very big, but it's still just, can the dog function outside, and not a huge proponent of flexi leashes, but this is one of the moments that I actually, because I don't have a 15-foot lead and I am not good at handling a line.
Actually, I love a flexi. I love a good flexi.
Right. Yeah. And I could put him on a flexi lead, and we did that outdoor area search because the wind was in our favor in about 20 seconds.
Wow.
Right. He was just like, oh, okay. And it's over here. And he put his nose in there. And I think they used a big odor because he went in there and he did the whole, oh my God, it's right here type of body freeze thing. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to sit. Plus it's a little hard.
Cool, right? So then you came out of there probably thinking like, oh, got that one in the bag, right?
Well, and that was one where I could just look at them because I knew there was only one hide out there. I could look at them and I said, calling time, that's it. They're like, yep. So it's the equivalent. That one was the equivalent of calling an alert.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So,
and you could actually reward your dog.
Yeah. And what they did in this particular certification. So each types of certifications might be a little bit different, but this particular organization, you do the entire search, then you'd go back and you tell the certifying officials where everything was, and then they would tell you to pay your dog.
Okay.
And so you could actually send the dog back in on the hide and then you could reinforce them. And Dash was at the end of the day, he's like, Mom, just give me a cookie. I just want cookies. And so, and I actually learned something else from him is that I don't have to go back and reinforce him for each hide. I just need to go back and reinforce him for one, and then we can walk through the area. And guess what I'm doing the entire time we're walking through the area? I'm flipping him cookies. Yeah. He's a lab. Yeah. He's not going to miss one of those puppies. Like, I'm all over that.
He's really not.
No,
he's really not. But it's so interesting to hear about the certification process because, obviously the from the sports side, it was done to kind of take inspiration from the professional side. And listening to your description of the certification process, you can really see how the veins of that actually help to inspire what we do on the sports side. And that is just really cool for me to hear. It really is.
And it's also one of those things that I look at the sports side and the time restrictions that you guys have on some of the searches that you do. Given the fact that you have big odor plumes, but
we have big odor plumes. Yeah.
Right. So
some of the searches are pretty, the times are very tight in some of the levels.
Right.
Yeah. Regardless of the size of the odor,
And I just am like, because talk about manufacturing stress.
It
put time limits on stuff, right?
Yeah, it does manufacture stress, but at the same time, nobody's going to die, right? So, if nobody's going to die, our stress comes from, we don't want to miss anything. We don't want to get a false alert. We want to do well. And so it becomes an inwardly focused stress versus, if I miss something, something could go wrong.
I see the time limits, especially in certifications for what I do, as really, really important because I can't take 5 minutes to search one car.
No.
And when you're out doing cadaver dog searches, you can't take 3 hours to do an acre.
No.
Unless you're looking for a very specific, if I'm looking for teeth, then it might take me 3 hours.
Right.
But the time component, it actually leads and is part of that whole efficient and effective and fluent.
So what you're talking about is when I teach it, I call it the concept of pacing. So even if I'm not under time pressure, a lot of times I still time myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because that way, especially if I'm working a blind situation, I like to time myself because I know I can tell based off my pace whether or not I'm lingering in an area more than I should, which could contribute to a fringe alert, right?
Well, and that can absolutely encourage a false alert.
Yeah. Yeah. Or false. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
false.
Either way.
Because,
Right.
oh my gosh, you stopped, which is handler bias.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm always trying to think about the pace when I'm trying to handle. And that's something that I try to kind of keep up if I can, because I find if my pace slacks off, I may get myself into trouble.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a timing component, even if there isn't.
Right.
Yeah. That's a cool concept.
So something I want to go back to, it was Brava's last trial. Why is that? And think about the extra pressure that added. Did that make it? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So the way it works is that, you accumulate points in Elite, and once you, and over a series of trials, right? So, and once you accumulate 1,000 points, you earn Elite Champion, and you are no longer eligible to compete at Elite anymore. And you are only eligible to compete at Summit twice a year. And Summit was, I think it was generally thought to like replace the national invitationals. So there's a ton of pressure. So now I have honestly, she hasn't even turned 5 years old yet, right? She's at her prime of searching. But now now there's increased pressure because I want her to do well at Summit, and so now I'm going to be really focused on, first of all, targeting, what summits I can get into, and then having a training plan to get her ready for that. So that whole buildup, and then this is kind of what Robin was talking about in the beginning, right? With that buildup leading into a big, high pressure situation like a certification or a trial, right? That buildup actually adds to the pressure when you get there. And then the pressure of only being able to do that, one other time in that year, and to title at Summit, you have to place in the top 20% of the trial. So you not only have pressure to do well, you actually have to do well in comparison to the other competitors.
And then you put in the fact, and one of the things that was interesting is I had to really manage. And when you do this, the FEMA level testing is the same way, because your FEMA level testing is over like a day.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's for your basic level certification, for your fundamental skills assessment. And, that encompasses everything from obedience work to agility and directionals and all sorts of things. And then you finally do the hunting portion on a pile at the end of the day.
Right.
But
that's got to be the fun part.
Yeah, that's actually the part where you're like, okay, whatever, we're done. The 5-minute down, stay out of sight tends to get a lot of people. Yeah.
Dicey there.
So, but it's that whole also managing yourself and not getting ahead.
Yeah.
Right. We're now not on, 4 things down. I'm not going to worry about directionals yet because we're still at off leash healing through a crowd.
Right.
And even like yesterday, I was like, okay, let's get through cars now. Okay, let's not worry about containers yet because we're going to go do rooms. So and it's that mental management on what are you going to do. And I remember having you come out on your way to Summit, right?
Yeah.
And talking about through, how you were preparing yourself and what you do during Summit to manage your own stuff.
Yeah.
Internal angst.
13-ish, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Internal angst. I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Starts with an S, ends with a T. Right. I got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just start using angst instead.
Thanks. Yeah.
So with Brava's last trial, you mentioned that you saw the veins between the certification and the sport. What did you see with her last trial as your example of comparisons?
I see a little bit more, I guess, in general, between the competition and the sport side. From the elite side of it, we don't have elements anymore. So we don't have occasionally they may give us oh, this is just a container search or this is just vehicles, but it's really just areas. So Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's the pressure. I mean, there's definitely some parallels there. The pressure is definitely higher.
And the components, the whole fact, you got vehicles, you've got rooms, you've got containers, you've got exterior areas, and all of those sorts of things. And the interesting, we talk about productive areas a lot,
right.
And now that's a little bit different for us versus you guys trying to stick a Q-tip somewhere. You have a whole lot more productive areas than we do.
You do, except you still have to be able to stick the Q-tip in a way that nobody can see it.
Right.
So they're not going to have it, on a wall, right? Unless it's under a lip of a,
right,
kind of
the
thing.
table or something. Right.
Right. So there still is a huge component of potentially productive area. We won't necessarily be targeting like trash cans, right? Because you were talking about like trash cans being, although we have hides on trash cans a lot.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're highly productive areas.
They are highly productive areas, but
they're stinky.
we're still going to be looking at like, this is our search area. And there are certain areas where we may want to focus more of our time in versus others.
Right.
Just because it's potentially more productive. This is really cool. This is really kind of cool just kind of talking this out because
I know.
I would say, oh yeah, it's inspired by the pro stuff. But we're like, well, I never really sat down and learned about it. It's just kind of cool. It's just, our original levels. So Elite is brand new. Well, not brand new, but it's a lot newer, right? So up until, I was in NW3 with Judd in 2015. There was no Elite. We had always had our trials as had elements like your certification, where we had interiors, we had exteriors, we had vehicles, we had containers. And we had, at the NW3 level, we had a total of 6 searches, and they were all unknown, 1 to 3 hides, except interiors could be 0, could be blank. The rules have changed since then. Now we can have anything can be blank. And then when they added Elite, right? Because at that point, NW3 Elite was the highest you could get. That was, 3 NW3 titles. And then they added Elite, and Elite was like this brand new thing. We didn't really know what it was. And they turned just into area searches. So then they got to be these huge areas. And let me tell you, I had heart palpitations the first time I went through my walkthrough for Elite. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a search area. It was really cool, but it was a little crazy. And, and the whole aspect of trying to keep track of your search area and everything, I remember one of my first searches, it was this big equestrian barn in a fairgrounds, and all the stalls looked the same. And we had the searches included the insides and the outsides. And I remembered as I'm searching there were numbers on the front of the stalls. So I would kind of think about, I'm like, oh, alert. And I think in my head, stall 24. So it was like just trying to kind of keep your bearings was kind of cool. Kind of cool stuff.
This has been a lot of fun. It'll be interesting to see as we continue to have some more of these conversations, especially when Crystal starts going out and trialing when the weather gets better.
Yeah.
Right. On how we're crossing over in all of these different areas that we can all learn from each other. And I think that the mental stuff that we have to manage as going into a trial or a test or a certification or even deployments, that sort of thing, is something we're going to probably talk more about. So I encourage everybody to go out to our website and check out the monthly freebies, because that's always something, hopefully something useful we try and put out there. So thanks, ladies, for a wonderful talk.
This is fun. Thanks a lot.
I love learning from both of you and kind of getting to experience your trials and certifications kind of vicariously.
Well, and Crystal,
ditto to you.
Yeah. Well, Crystal, I appreciate the really insightful questions.
Always here to ask lots of questions. I'm always curious.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks.
Canine Detection Collaborative.
We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to K9DetectionCollaborative.com. That's K9 DetectionCollaborative.com. where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.